I'm really excited to introduce our next session. New to Globe Summit this year, we are launching a feature developed by our Living Arts digital editor, Matt Jewell, called Boston on Boston, which brings together two Boston icons for a conversation right here on our summit stage. No reporters or Globe monitors on stage, just a conversation we're privileged to witness, bringing to life insights we would never otherwise get to experience outside of this event. With that, I'm thrilled to introduce our two trailblazing speakers kicking off this Boston and Boston segment. Author Sarah Lewis, Associate Professor at Harvard University and founder of Vision and Justice, and Dr. Makeeba McCreary, President of the New Commonwealth Fund. Please join me in giving them a warm welcome to the stage.
All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Sarah Lewis.
Makeeba McCreary.
And I am thrilled. I feel as if I'm living in this fever dream to have time with you here together at the Boston Globe Summit. Because if I didn't know that you existed, I would have had to invent you.
You're gonna make me blush.
I mean, she is, to have the grounding and the work of what happens in public schools, what happens in the arts, and in the field of social justice, all combined in this extraordinary leader that you are, given the work that I do, it is almost a hallucination of a dream. So I'm so thrilled to be able to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
So what is exciting you today about the work that you do?
We were just behind the curtain, and I turned to Sarah, I turned to you, and I said, we've never been in the same room together before. In person. But that is only short of the reality that I came to the Vision and Justice convening that you held, I think it was the first one at Harvard in 2021, and I was like a little child sitting in the audience looking up thinking, okay, there is a black woman on this stage. She has convened all of these beautiful black and brown folks in this room to talk about the thing that I just had left, which was the museum, and being surrounded by incredible storytellers every single day, and I was missing it desperately. It was all of the things that bring me joy, and you were the architect of that, and I, since then, have never had a chance to just say thank you. Thank you for creating such a powerful place. I'm excited about this right here, right now, and I'm excited about the belief that I have today, which is the leaders that got us to where we are right now. They can't get us out of this. They can't do it, which then calls into question the definition of leadership. And my current thinking is firmly squared in the idea that leadership really is about courage and truth-telling. And I can't think of anybody who does that more vividly and authentically than the creatives that we're surrounded by. So I'm excited about those things coming together, and I also think that it's really time for women to lead us out of this moment. So here we are.
That's right, exactly that. The theme of today's summit is revolutionary ideas. And as I was thinking about how Boston, and I'm new to Boston, I'm a New Yorker, but I'm now a Bostonian. And
oh, that depends. How many years have you been
here? Oh gosh, is there
we're a tough bunch.
Are you tougher than New Yorkers? Oh, I don't know if that's possible. But having been here now 10 years, does that count?
That's okay.
That's kind of counts.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll let you claim us.
But it makes me think of revolutionary ideas constantly because the ground has been claimed through revolution. What I think we get wrong when we think of revolutionary ideas is that we focus so much on process, insurrection, conflict, and not the aim of revolution, which is sovereignty, and claiming the ground on which you stand. Yeah. And one of, I think, the aspects that really unites our work is that we look to the truth tellers that are often not saluted to do that work of claiming the ground, the artist, right? So so much of what's exciting me today is how many of those leaders are coming from that space. How many are coming from the space of contemporary artistic practice, whether it's a Carrie Mae Weems, or an Amy Sherald, right? Or a Thelma Golden, who has long done this extraordinary work. We might speak about her more later. So I want to thank you so much for attending Vision and Justice, and by the affirmation you've given me here, reminding me of that ground that was fertilized, seeded for you in that moment, and how it goes on.
Some folks may know sort of your origin story, but I think it'd be really important for this audience to just get a little snippet of that, if you would. And just maybe share a little bit about the influence of your family, in particular, I believe your grandfather, on who you are today and why you see the world the way that you do.
So I teach here at Harvard. I'm an author. I used to curate at MoMA and Tate Modern and other places. And what animates so much of my work now is this question: what does art and culture teach us about who counts and who belongs in American society? What is the function of representation?
That's right.
In a representational democracy? It sounds like a conceptual kind of abstract question. It's grounded for me in an experience that a young man had, my grandfather, in 1926 in a New York City public school. He wanted to know why the textbooks just presented the world one way. He wanted to know why the textbooks didn't include Asian Americans, African Americans, indigenous folks, Latinos. He didn't understand why, and he asked again and again. The teacher told him that Black Americans in particular had done nothing to merit inclusion. And he didn't accept that as an answer. And he was expelled for his so-called impertinence in refusing to accept that answer. And the year was 1926, and he became an artist, a painter, a kind of proto-Kehinde Wiley, creating the very scenes he knew he should have been able to find in those textbooks. And also a jazz musician, House of Blues, in effect, reminds me so much of the ground that he walked. He played with Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Billie Holiday, upright bass. And it was only when he died that I learned why he never graduated from high school. And I understood the sacrifice that he made to ask the questions that here I am, fortunate enough to speak with you about a century later, right? What is the function of culture for justice? Why does it matter that we are able to see ourselves? We're in today this crisis of regard, this inability to see each other. And if we don't accurately understand the power of the image, of culture, of representation for understanding and honoring human life in advance of law, right? Then we'll continue to really be lost. And so his name is really what my initials of my own name salutes. His name was Shadrach Emmanuel Lee. Isn't it so good? And Sarah Elizabeth Lewis is much less cool, but SEL are the initials, and that's what brings me here.
It reminds me, when you spoke of him, of the question that I would often get. I got it when I was in Boston Public Schools, not about artists and not about art as much, but certainly in the museum and now at the New Commonwealth Fund, this idea of whether or not art is political.
And how do you respond?
Yeah, I always have to take a beat. And I think, honestly, my first response is, what a silly question.
Yeah, right.
But then I have to stop and think, well, it's not silly if it's asked so often. And it makes me really wonder, what are people hoping it does, right? Is it the hope that there's a space of reprieve where you don't have to be engaged or connected to all of the conflicts of today? I answered that question at the museum. I would say, well, it's an invitation.
Yes.
It's an invitation for us to have everybody's story told through their own voice.
Yes.
And whether that medium is like Carrie Mae Weems in photography or Thelma Lewis reopening the Studio Museum in Harlem. By the way, everybody needs to go and see this incredible facility that has been architected by a brilliant Black man that has incredible historical, mappings of artists throughout the building. But, that unto itself is just the museum itself, its presence there, the ownership of that space, from my perspective, is an act of revolution, right? Yes. And I also think that it's a healing. I think that it offers an opportunity for a voice to tell you, I'm going to honor your experience and what you bring, and I'm going to honor my own. And that definition then turns into humanity.
That's right. That's right. One way I think we can remind ourselves of the importance of arts for politics is to consider today how many lawyers themselves have turned to the power of the arts to make claims in the legal realm, whether it's Brian Stevenson, right, who is argued before the Supreme Court countless times, but has dedicated the non-existent free time he has to create the National Memorial to Peace and Justice in Montgomery, Alabama, to honor the over 4,000 men, women, and children whose lives were taken from racial terror. Why would a lawyer do this? Create a monument, really invest in culture if it wasn't inherently political? Why would we have debates about monuments if it wasn't inherently political? Why do we have leaders from Frederick Douglass to W.B. Du Bois arguing about the power of the arts if it wasn't? We do know it offers a reprieve, right? It does do that, but it's because it does that and more that it has such force, you know? So like you, I find that it's stunning when people ask whether it cannot be political.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
It must be in many ways.
Exactly.
Sarah, help me think a little bit about the other question that I get all of the time, as of late, very, very late, which is, how do you stay hopeful? How do you think about tomorrow and the next day and next year and the next election cycle, to be perfectly blunt?
Yeah. Well, first, in coming here, I thought to myself, I wanted to ask you a similar question and envision that I could see the tactics you might employ to stay hopeful, and I'm going to ask you what some of yours are.
Please.
One of mine is to think in terms of generation time. As I walk the grounds of Cambridge, I pass by homes, one of which is the home of W.B. Du Bois, when he couldn't live on Harvard's campus and lived off campus. And I think of the span of time that passed within his life. He was witnessing the racial nadir of American life, the rollback of the gains of Reconstruction in Woodrow Wilson's administration, but he also lived to see the Harlem Renaissance and beyond. And so I remain hopeful by not just looking at the moment and what's called for in that day and time, the intensity of it, but what's required for the era. That means sustaining my joy, to endure, to contribute, to understand that this moment of potential nadir, right, will be met with a renaissance of another kind. So time, for me, seeing it in this dual way is one of the critical resources that I employ to stay hopeful. Is that similar to you? Do you have other tactics?
I think it's a yes and for me. The new Commonwealth Fund was founded in 21, so I had sort of just started my role when I first saw you, and it was grounded in what we refer to as like a dual crisis, right?
Yes.
The multiple crises, the fund said Black and brown nonprofit leaders are not receiving the level of resources, financial resources, that they need in order to truly deliver the quality of experience that they are set up to do for their communities.
Right.
Now, fast forward, we feel very similar. Today, actually, it's even harder because there's so much hesitation to engage with anything that feels like it could be dangerous or controversial. But we're talking about leaders who are at the nexus of maternal health and bringing babies into this world. Right. And we're talking about leaders that are serving folks who are re-entering from being formerly incarcerated and want to be a part of this community. We're talking about folks that are in the medical field that are addressing chronic issues. And why I get hopeful every single day is because they were doing that before 2021.
Yes.
They will do that in 2030.
Yeah.
They are doing it now. They continue to do the work, and they are not alone. It makes me remember that there are so many people who just wake up every day and say, what's the work? What do we have to do to make sure that we take care of one another? And it is not exclusive to a neighborhood or a race or a gender. It is expansive. So the idea of care is the thing that keeps me hopeful. And, I think about my responsibility. I have a son, a black boy, a black man. I have to stop that. He's just turned 21. It's hard. He's still my baby. He deserves to be able to walk this world and have an incredible experience, just like all of us do and did. And so I think that's my responsibility to make sure, and yours and everybody here, to make sure that we create a space for that to happen.
That's exactly
and I'm hopeful for those reasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is one example or lesson that you learned from working at the Museum of Fine Arts Boston that you brought with you to this extraordinary new role at the new Commonwealth Fund?
The power of being seen, particularly for artists who had never had a chance to have their work acknowledged in an institution that, say what you will, there's all sorts of informal ways to share works of art, but it means something to be acknowledged by an institution like Harvard or the Museum of Fine Arts Boston or the Tate. And so when I saw Ekwa Holmes have an exhibit there that had taken several years to happen, the absolute energy, I would go in on weekends just to be able to experience folks coming in and seeing her work on those walls. That's an energy, a joy that I still carry with me.
It is such a powerful
Wait, I have one
point.
other one I want to share
tell me.
because I think you'll love this one.
Yeah.
The other one that is my favorite is that there was a Kehinde Wiley portrait on the second floor that was like floor to ceiling. And look at me, I'm stuck. And I would see little kids with their parents come in and just stand in front of it and look up and smile. And it just was so powerful for them to see themselves represented in these portraits.
Truly. You all have probably seen the image that went viral, White House photographer Pete Souza took of a young 2-year-old girl in front of Amy Sherrill's portrait, right, of our forever First Lady, Michelle Obama. And it's similar, right, to that same feeling you're describing. I just took my students in my Unseen Black Art course at Harvard, and I could have taken a photograph of many of them, just having the same experience. But the power of being seen. When you have the foundation of a country that is built into the Constitution, statements determining that African Americans are 3/5 human beings, you understand the power of regard, right? And how this was a hard-won fact, being seen rightly. And so when you look at a work of Kehinde Wiley in the museum, you can flash back over the centuries and understand all that has been required. From Frederick Douglass here in Boston, arguing about the importance and power of regard, of images, right, for justice. Du Bois doing the same, and so on, and then flashing up to you being at the MFA Boston. It gives me so much joy and hope. When I mentioned my grandfather and described how my own name salutes him, a century later, that gives me joy. That gives me hope.
I think we have a short bit of time left, and what I want to end with is, will you tell us and share with us what the marching orders were for you from the last Vision and Justice convening that just took place? Because it was just recently.
Yeah. So Vision and Justice, this catalytic civic initiative, has a number of public programs, and now convenings are central for them. Sherilyn Eiffel, I'm so honored, was the co-organizer this time with me, and it was mounted at Ford, the Ford Foundation in New York City. The speakers range from artists, leaders of all kinds, and the charge was to centralize the narrative function and power of culture for justice. We are in the unfinished civil rights movement today. And what's singular, I think, for our generation is that we finally see as not working alongside, but as indispensable for political leadership, the power of culture and art for justice. And that is the call, and that is the charge. And it means that we have to ask what we're seeing and why we're seeing it, and who we need to call in and who we need to call out when we don't engage with culture for justice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, this has been an honor. I don't want to leave this extraordinary
I
new
know,
friend
we're going
and
to just
leader.
go back there and keep talking.
We'll keep talking.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.